Ladies and gentlemen, let's break Gaming.com video. The death of the PC is greatly exaggerated, according to Intel. And indeed, they are finding positive growth, great new form factors, and more, bringing life back into the PC market. So recently, there was a summit in Singapore, which is known as Intel Solution Summit. And previously, many had felt that the desktop space was shrinking rapidly, but the last few quarters, so that would be the last quarter of this year as well as the last quarter of 2013, have actually been positive. We've seen 2 quarters of consecutive growth, and Intel are reporting that during its recent earnings call, the desktop processor volume is actually up 7% in the fourth quarter of 2013 year over year. And there's numerous reasons behind this. Obviously, we've got the planned goodbye, the sayonara, the farewell to Windows XP, renewed interests in desktops and notebooks, as well as alternative form factors such as all-in-one PCs and ultra-small next unit computers, also known as NUCs, that's NUC. And indeed, Intel's CFO, Stacy Smith, said, and I quote, "We are well on our way to reinventing the personal computer." Interestingly enough, AIO form factor, at least according to the Intel executives, is growing pretty quickly. Currently, it's representing about 10% of the desktop segment, but is growing faster than the rest of the desktop space. So what we're seeing now is data from high-volume enterprise customers, so in other words, really, really large customers, that they're finally starting to push towards new operating systems, new technology, and new systems, because now it's getting a really interesting point in PC technology, and I've been saying this for a while. If you're an owner of something like, let me pull a processor out of the air, like a Sandy Bridge processor, like a 2500K, or roughly around there, most likely you'll be fine for gaming for a while, and it's probably not worth your time upgrading unless there's specific reasons. For example, you want to do, I don't know, just for example, lots of video editing, or something like that, then there's possibly a reason to upgrade. But we're going to be seeing DDR4 technology introduced. GPUs are, of course, advancing at an exponential rate right now. Despite the fact that we're getting some rehashes and some semi-disappointing processors, GPUs I mean, primarily. So, for example, we're seeing the introduction of the Titan Black, which doesn't really, well, it's already been introduced, but it doesn't really offer that much in terms of performance over, say, the Ti. In fact, the 780 Ti is actually faster in some cases because the clock speeds are slightly higher. You've got issues with the Titan Z, which is basically, from what we understand, going to be a Titan Black, but lower, slower, should I say, cores. In other words, the clock speeds are just going to be clocked about 100 megahertz, slightly more in some cases, slower. AMD are pushing the 295s, X2s, and they're doing pretty well. They're pretty nice graphics cards, but of course they do have inherent problems anyway because of crossfire. And so on and so forth. And this is atypical of what happens towards the end of a GPU cycle. So right now we're basically at like the pinnacle of the current technology, and of course everyone's really waiting for Maxwell and/or equivalents from either AMD or other rivals. CPU-wise, of course, as I've mentioned, your current CPU is most likely going to be okay, but with the end of the operating system life cycle, as is, so XP is definitely dying, and we've got the introduction of tons of other technology on the horizon. DDR4 is chief amongst them. Intel are, of course, pushing its own pieces of technology, including, of course, Skylake, which we're likely going to be seeing some point next year, although some sources stating it could even possibly slip into 2016. Regardless, with the introduction of that, definitely DDR4 will have taken hold. meaning we're going to have significantly higher memory bandwidth, which means that IGPs, also known as integrated graphic processors, are going to be better. We're going to be able to make use of the die space a lot better, because obviously, not only that, we're going to be getting down to 14 nm, most likely by that point. It's going to be pretty standard, which means that GPU power on those cores are going to become a lot more intense, and we're going to have the bandwidth to be able to handle middling graphics. And obviously we've got GDDR5, we've got GPUs which are going to be hitting 5 Tflops plus. What's my point to all of this? Well, with the introduction of the new Unreal Engine 4 games, we've got the new Frostbite, new engines such as Snowdrop, which are coming out as well, which are looking very impressive. We're starting to see the emergence of GPU compute and various other technologies, including DirectX 12. The PC is going to start to push forward, and that's not to say that, you know, if you're a PS4 owner, you're going to be left out in the cold and you're going to have crappy graphics, but that is to say that PCs are definitely going to really start stretching their legs. They've had some issues, quite honestly, which have been holding them back, including DirectX 12, other software, somewhat legacy as well of Windows XP has been kind of dragging down the sales. Various other bits and pieces. The Windows 8 as well hasn't really helped, because a lot of people just didn't like Windows 8, if I'm totally honest. And I think that's also kind of slowed the roll of hardware. Obviously, some people could go with Windows 7, but at the same time, it was getting more harder to actually get systems with Windows 7 pre-installed. A lot of it was just Windows 8, and quite a few people I know just hate Windows 8. And of course, with the recent patches, Windows 8 is becoming a bit friendlier, I suppose, with the traditional GUI. That's not to say it's quite perfect yet. The start menu needs a little bit of work, to say the least. Regardless, it's going to be an interesting time of it, and I think in the next couple of years, the PC market hopefully should also become quite aggressive. One benefit as well is the next generation systems, at least from at least from Sony and Microsoft, are both x86/64. Because of this, it means translating code between the two systems, PS4 and PC, for example, isn't too difficult. And obviously DX12 is also going to kind of run with this idea. Anyway, guys, hopefully you've enjoyed the video. I'll see you soon. Take care, and bye for now.